Hi guys, bonjour, this is Romy. Welcome for this new video dedicated to helping you make a great wedding on a budget. Today is the fourth and final part of our wedding dress tutorial inspired by Meghan Markle. We are going to sew the lining to the dress and make all the finishes. If you haven't seen the previous parts yet, the dress that we're creating is a simplified version of Meghan's design, as it's meant to be beginners friendly, budget friendly, busy schedule friendly and dance floor friendly. But we're trying to keep the spirit of the simple yet sophisticated dress designed by Clare Waight Keller for the House of Givenchy. So let's start with hand sewing the lining to the zipper inside the dress. Make sure that it is well aligned and not too close from the teeth of the zipper, they would catch the fabric. We are going to start sewing at the bottom at about 1 centimeter below the end of the zipper opening. So let's make a row of invisible stitches, and it is very important not to catch the main fabric of the dress, especially since we are very proud of our invisible zipper. So I catch a little bit of the zipper fabric with my needle and then I insert it in the lining for about 7 millimeters. A little stitch in the zipper, just one thread, and then inside the lining. Now you know how to create an invisible zipper. There are several techniques to do that, but I really like this one. Let's check again that we didn't catch some of the main fabric of the dress. And when we are done with this side, let's do the other one and both armholes as well using the same technique. For the armholes, I suggest that you make the invisible stitches smaller, like 3-4 millimeters. When we are done with the zipper and the armholes, we're going to go to the waist. In the previous episode, we saw how to align and pin both the dress and the lining together. We need now to baste the waistline, catching both the dress and the lining fabric with a long and quick basting stitch. Once this step is completed, you can go ahead, lift the lining up and catch both the sewing allowance of the dress and the sewing allowance of the lining together. We will attach them together with a row of basting hand stitches. Make sure to use white thread since this will not be removed. I hope this technique is clear for you. I apologize for not thinking of zooming in while explaining this step. Anyway, when this is done, you can remove the basting thread and I'll show you how to finish the end of the zipper part now. So I pin temporarily both back pieces of my lining together, like so. Then I turn them inside out and I'm going to keep pinning them in place together down to the hem of the skirt. We are going to close these two back gores together permanently with a sewing machine or with a serger if you own one. If you are using a serger, I'm going to show you a great technique to finish your threads and prevent any future unstitches. So I am going to thread a big needle with the 4 or 6 threads of your serger and I insert it between the sewing and the fabric for about 4 to 5 centimeters. Then you just need to cut the excess and voila, safe! Now to the sleeves. We're going to do an invisible hem, and to do that you need to fold the fabric at about 5 millimeters and then fold it again at another 5 millimeters. Pin your hem in place before threading your needle with a white thread. By the way, if you don't feel like hand stitching, use your sewing machine now. You have perhaps noticed that I didn't follow the length line of my sleeve. I decided to make them a little longer in the last minute. You can also get rid of the grain line and start your invisible stitches. Don't make them too tight if you're working with a fabric that has some elasticity in it like mine. You would lose this elasticity and your stitches could break once putting on the dress. Okay, let's get started. I let you have a look at the screen to see how to make the invisible stitches. It will be better than my explanations. Now let's do the same on the other side. And then when it is done, we're going to take care of the neckline. First, we will need to cut the lining at about 2 to 3 millimeters from our basting line, using fine scissors if possible, or your regular one of course, but just be extra cautious not to cut the main fabric of the dress at the same time. An easy option would be to just fold and sew the fabric directly on the lining, and again without catching the fabric of the dress itself, of course. Or if you want a perfect and professional finish that gives the dress more structure, we can use a white bias. Place your bias on the main fabric of the dress, right sides together, open it and pin it all the way at about 5 or 6 millimeters from the edge, depending on the side of your bias. Then we need to sew a row of straight stitches right in the crease of the bias. I'm going to do it by hand just because I have a little baby sleeping in the room nearby and I wouldn't want him to wake up, but of course you can use the sewing machine. For the final look of our boat neck and the polish of its finish, it's really important to place the bias parallelly to the neckline and that the sewing I'm doing now be very straight. Then we will fold the bias on the edge of the fabric before folding the fabric itself on the lining, following the neckline basting as a guide. Two little things. First, be careful not to fold the corner too close to the teeth of the zipper. It would be eaten. And secondly, it's possible, if you feel that it's necessary, to cut a little bit of the fabric inside the bias at the corner to make it a little bit more flat. We are going to pin like that all the way, making sure once again that we fold our fabric following the neck basting line. I cannot stress enough how important that is if you want your boat neck to have a smooth and beautiful line. At the end, I cut the excess fabric and fold the corner, making sure again to stay away from the path of the zipper. Once everything is pinned in place, it's time to perform our magic invisible stitches. But before, and I know I'm getting boring, make sure that your neckline is perfect and that you like the shape of it. The bias we have attached to finish the edge of the fabric will make the finish more polished, obviously, but it will also strengthen the neck that could otherwise have a tendency to fall off our shoulders, especially since we used a stretchy fabric. Now be careful to sew the bias to the lining and the lining only. Don't catch a single thread of the main fabric of the dress. That would create little hollows, little unsightly shadows at the neck. On the other end, when we reach the shoulder parts that have no lining, you will have to catch the fabric of the dress. Just catch as little as possible, like half a thread on the inside. And for the end, the corners, good luck. No, I'm kidding. Do stitches as small and as invisible as possible. We don't want any thread to be apparent since it could be caught in the zipper and that would prevent it to close properly. I should really be using a thimble here. It's a lot of layers and quite hard on our hands. If you are happy with your neck, go ahead and unstitch the red basting thread and get mentally ready to tackle the gazillion kilometers of hemming that we have to do for the bottom of the dress. Use the same technique that you used for the sleeves. Now to hem the lining, let's fold the fabric at about 5 to 7 millimeters and fold it again. To be sure, check how much sewing allowance you left and be careful that the length of the lining doesn't exceed the length of the dress. It should be slightly shorter. I'm going to use my beloved top stitching presser foot. As you know, it is my favorite. I would buy it again in a blink if it got lost, since that precious baby is giving me top-notch results, whatever the mood I'm in. We are going to sew at 1 to 2 millimeters from the folded edge, making sure to be as even as possible if you don't own this magic presser foot. I have a couple of friends who do that perfectly just with the regular presser foot, and I'm always green with envy. By the way, it's a good idea to pin the whole hem before going to the sewing machine, since it might be a challenge to hem something round for the first time. Don't fret about the little waves that have a tendency to form. A good steaming will do the trick on such a tender fabric. Voila, we are done with the finishes, we are done with the dress. Well, almost. There is still something left to do, and that's the most important. Yep, you guessed it, we need to iron the dress. It is really a must. It will enhance the quality of your work and make it look more professional and more polished. First, let's have a look at the inside of the dress. The armholes, the waist. That's impeccable. And icing on the cake, the zipper is working. Now let's have a look at the hem. We can see here that the dress is in desperate need of a good ironing session, so let's get to it. Can you tell that the fabric of my sleeve board is overtied? If I keep postponing taking care of that, it will stain my fabrics at some point. I think I will make a quick tutorial on how to make a new cover for your ironing board. Oh, and look at the little waves. Stim, stim, and it's gone. Now let's be clear that I need to iron properly and thoroughly the whole dress, and the few shots that you just saw aren't enough. So I'll be back with the dress when it is done. Oh, and big surprise, the royal British family sent me a beautiful diamond necklace from the Queen's private collection. You know, just for the sake of this tutorial. It will be absolutely stunning with our wedding gown inspired by Meghan Markle, the lovely bride of Prince Harry. And let's take this opportunity to congratulate them both for the birth of Archie, their little baby boy. Bye bye! À bientôt!